Welcome to Test Chamber. I'm Matt Miller. I am joined by Matthew Kato.
Hello.
How's it going?
It's going all right. You know, I'm just cruising on Ventura Bay here.
Yeah, we're cruising.
Exclamation point looks like the place to be.
That's right. We are playing Need for Speed, and we're going to start things out at a little party. We're going to check things out, see how things are on the in the street scene.
It's exclusive party. Very exclusive.
Only the best street racers. As you'll see when you walk up to the door, the bouncer lets you right in. So you may catch a little bit of levity in our voices because both of us have seen these cutscenes before, and I think you got to make a call for yourself about whether. I mean, they're so cheesy, right? They are so cheesy, and you got to make a decision whether you can see it as being amusing and silly.
Slow-mo, that's dramatic effect.
He wants you to come right in, man. And or if this is just like dumb for you. Like if it's dumb for you, I don't know how you can like enjoy what's going on in Need for Speed's narrative stuff.
This is real life, man. This was my Friday night here. Friday and Saturday.
Yeah, I remember you telling me about this party that you were at.
You know, I texted you to come over, but I don't think the bouncer let you in, actually. I told him, I said, be on the lookout for this guy.
I may not have been cool enough. I may not have been fast enough. These are just, they're as weird as they are, these kind of live-action cutscenes are sort of a carryover from old Need for Speeds. Are these characters that we're going to kind of meet at some point?
Yeah, some of them are, yes. And some of them are extras, which I hope they got.
All right, so this is Spike. This is our new buddy that we just met out on the streets.
There's some real people in here tonight.
Yeah. And this is another one of our buddies that we're meeting for the first time in the story.
This Bambi just
I'm gonna let everybody listen to this dialogue for a little bit.
Right through the I-5 intersection over Turner, man. Up the skid row, you know what I'm saying?
Must have been something. Haven't seen Spike this hype since, well, he's always this hype.
That's why you love me.
Robin. Good luck trying to keep up.
Trust me, babe, he'll do just fine. Matter of fact, I'm taking him to meet Travis right now. Maybe shift one of those rides taking up all our space. Come on, man.
I'm not kidding. When I was, reviewing this game, I started typing down everybody's name just because I wanted to, be a good note taker.
Yeah,
keep
sure.
everything straight and,
Isn't she lovely?
Ooh. She's tough.
Yeah.
Also, that she's for her friend, she's Ames. We're gonna learn that later. We get to be better friends.
Someone I want you to meet. Tell me why. You should have seen this guy, man. Control off the hook.
If anybody's into boxing, if they want to write in and tell us if that with the form, I don't know if that's good form or not, but
Sure, it's excellent.
Truth, man. This one's a helmsman. You picked a good time to re-up. There's some top-grade talent in town who's ready to make history. Serendipity, brother. The stars aligning. Never a better time to start a project.
Not to interrupt this scintillating narrative, but we want to start out a little bit by showing this stuff off. This has sort of been an aspect of the Need for Speed approach to doing its storytelling for a while now, of going for this kind of like, you're a guy on the street and you're part of the underground scene, and I don't know if you say that it works or it doesn't, if it gets what it's going for or not.
I guess, whether you like it or you don't like it, I guess I like that they just kind of go for it.
They do.
They just like, you know what, we're not going to pretend to try to, add anything or do anything that we're not. And, they obviously, they paid these people, I hope. And they set all this stuff up, and it's like they wrote this stuff and it's like they just went for it. So I guess, hats off to them in a way.
I got guys with no trust fund paying full price for this, so.
Really? It's like that, huh?
It's like that.
Wait.
It's like that. But we're actually going to jump ahead, I think, here in a moment and see some of the actual race. We're going to jump ahead, actually, kind of into the middle of the game. And
after many races, many trips to this garage,
and talk about the gameplay. But
many cutscenes.
Keep in mind that you're always going to have this as your backdrop, and if you're cool with that, then that's great. And if this isn't your thing, this is what you can kind of. I think it's fair to say you can kind of expect this throughout.
Yeah, these
Need for
kind of
Speed.
serve as your stops. You certainly go and do plenty of events, which you don't have any cutscenes in and out of them. But then every once in a while, you can tell like you've done all the events that you can do. It's time now to trigger a cutscene. Live with that for the 30 seconds and then go back out
Sure.
into the world.
Well, let's jump ahead now.
We're here in the garage, and I've got a Porsche 911, which is pretty cool. And over here, you can see some of the other cars. You got 5 slots, and if you buy more than one, I believe it just kicks out your lowest one. But that probably shouldn't be too big of a problem. You don't need a lot of cars per se, unless you just want them. Okay, so
Let's talk a little bit about customization.
Yeah, definitely. So you just go in here, and this is kind of a cool little thing I like. It's called the parts inbox. And if I had parts in the inbox, it would show them to me. And so like inbox would be like, there's some ways you can find parts in the world. There's ways you can win parts.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's kind of a neat little way to be like, you're playing, you win some part, it comes up on the screen and it's gone in 2 seconds, and what part was that? I didn't see that. You can come into here and you can see, exactly what it was.
Sure.
Paint and wrap, obviously you can do plenty of visual customizations to all these different areas of the car. Some of them, it's just like there's no parts available, or some of them, when you start out, they might have to be, unlocked. And then, certainly the visual one, this is, like...
You can do some new paint job stuff on
Exactly. You can do... you can make multiple ones. You can't share them, though, which is disappointing.
Okay.
But certainly you want to, cool designs. You want to put logos, all that kind of stuff. It's all right there.
Did you find that when you're actually customizing things like you're looking at handling and tuning and things like that, it made a big difference in how the cars feel?
Well, I tended to use this kind of macro overall handling style one. So
Sure.
right now you can see I'm sort of like 3/4 of the way to drift.
Yeah.
And if you go into here, it'll ask you to override the tuning. Because if you watch, as I go down, it sets everything else down.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. I think it's, like a lot of games where like, okay, there's a slider, is this just shade off of the middle? Does this make a difference? I'm not sure if that does, but you can definitely feel when you got in the middle, when you've got about 3/4, and certainly when you got full on.
Yeah, I figure if you go
notice
all
those
the way
stops.
left, you'd be pretty slippy.
Yeah. And so like, when I do his drift race, there's sometimes I can handle it, let's say like on that.
Yeah.
And then go race a sprint race where maybe I need more grip, or sometimes I could keep it in the middle. But there was definitely times where I'm like, you know what? I'm having a hard time with these drifts, or vice versa, like I'm just all over the place. I need some more grip, where I would consciously come in before a race, set this up, and then go back out. And so if you want to just do these, you can do these. I've messed around a little bit with these, but I got to be honest with you, I think most people probably won't. The interesting thing with these is that you see these locked ones, and these are locked because what those require first is they require specific performance parts.
Yeah.
So if you go into, let's say like, obviously, if you go into your intake manifold, your cooling system, these are ones when you buy the parts, they're just going to up your performance. See all those green arrows?
Sure.
But if you come into something like brakes, you come in and by buying this part, what this allows you to do is to add, if you look over there on the left
Add
side
that
of the screen.
option?
Yeah, add the brake bias, add strength. So it's not like it's improving your brakes, so to speak. What it's letting you do is it's letting you change your brakes if that's what you want. So then you go buy that part, you go back into the performance customization, and then this would be unlocked once you bought that part.
That's cool. One of the dilemmas I think I've run into before in car games that have a lot of customization is that I get a little intimidated sometimes by I'm going to screw up my car.
Yeah.
Right? I'm going to like put the wrong part on, which is certainly something that you can end up doing in something like Gran Turismo or whatever. And I like the idea here that like the things that I know about, that I do understand how it will affect my car, I can sort of micromanage that. But on a broader level, I can just be like, okay, well, I just want to be a little bit more drifty.
Yeah.
Right?
And you're not
That's helpful.
Yeah, and you're not spending money on like, oh, well, I must need new brakes or even new tires. I must, upgrade the car. You're not wasting that money on stuff that maybe you don't even really want to fool around with.
Well, let's take this beauty out for a ride, see how it drives.
So just a quick note on the loading, whatever. There's one load when you come into the world. The game requires an online connection, so there'll be kind of a lengthy load coming into the initial game. And when you leave, cutscenes, or if you leave certain races, you'll see this screen. But otherwise, you're just driving around the world. And I can show you some things on the map that kind of highlight the world here. So we're coming out of a garage, and
we get a lot of phone calls from our buddies.
There's somebody. Let's see if we can race this guy here. Come on, buddy, accept a race. Oh, they're taking off. They want no part of this.
They may already be on a different race. Is that possible?
They could be, but as you can see, you won't actually see who they're racing against, which is kind of a weird thing. Like,
you're slipstreaming with them, getting some rep.
I'm getting some rep. We're always getting rep. Whoa! that cleaved that guy
went down really fast there.
Yeah. So we can looks like these people don't want anything to race, but if when you get up right behind somebody, you can challenge them.
Sure.
You hit R1, and it gives you options to do a sprint race, drift race, or an outrun race.
And to be clear, we're talking about real people.
Yeah,
that are
those
moving
are
through
real
this world.
people. Yeah, exactly.
Can we find an event that's against not real people and just kind of see a race? Maybe. I mean,
Sure.
This is sort of our map of the city.
And so, you can toggle through. So here's the missions. These are like story missions that we've got to do with the different colored icons. Or you can, here's all the events, and then there's some collectibles. These, I got to be honest with you, aren't super interesting. These are vistas where you take a picture, and then these burnout donuts where you just go to this location
and do donuts.
Do a donut, and
Funny.
you get your little, marker for it. So yeah, let's go to an event here.
Do we need to drive here, or is there another option?
We can do both. So
Okay.
if we go out here, here's one. It's a free part, actually. That's another collectible. Those are kind of cool.
Yeah.
So we'll go to this one, and you hit X, and you can either set the route, or you can actually go and teleport. Now, if you teleport, you'll trigger the loading screen or whatever.
Well, it doesn't look too far away, but we can jump right ahead to it. One of the things as we're loading in here that is striking to me about the game is just being out on the road. It's real pretty.
Yeah.
It's a pretty looking game. We're seeing some weather effects right now. The street glint reflections look amazing.
For a game that's always at night, it feels kind of weird in some sense. It will change to dawn. The rain will come on and off. Honestly, I don't think the rain really does much. I've never paid attention to whether the streets have been wet or not.
Sure.
But, it does have a good look to it. It has a distinct look when you're in different areas of the city.
Mm-hmm.
And, so, it's a really good-looking game, and it's definitely not held back. And everything, it's probably enhanced by the fact that it's night only, because it probably lets them get away with, some stuff they're not having to put detail on. But it is a game with detail, having said that.
So for folks who aren't familiar with the many, many entries of the Need for Speed franchise, this one's called just Need for Speed. This is as close as you get, I think, for them kind of rebooting it, at least from a marketing perspective, And I'm curious if somebody hasn't played these games before, what's the feel compared to other racers? What kind of a racing game is this?
It's definitely kind of an arcade feel. Whoa, I was not paying attention.
You just want to show off the great accident physics, right?
I did. And another thing that I'll show off here is some of the catch-up AI. So luckily, it's an arcade racer, so you expect some of that. So luckily I'm only in 7th, but I should be able to make my way kind of up. Let's get off the wall first.
Well, I haven't played as much of this as you, but I have to say, when I did play, I was astounded by how aggressive the rubber band AI was.
Yeah, you'll see guys really kind of like slingshot from you. And I don't mean like slingshot as in it's like a racing maneuver or somebody throws on the nitrous and they just get a little boost. We're talking like, they will leapfrog you.
Right.
Conversely, like since I crashed, like I can just make my way through these guys. These guys
they slowed down.
Are clearly here just, to let me get up to the front. So if you see up there on the top, I went through checkpoint 16 of 23.
Right.
I would say as a little pro tip, when you start to get, about 5 or so checkpoints from the end, you're going to want to take it a little more serious in the sense that you're probably not going to want to do anything too risky. You're obviously going to want to watch your crashes because there just simply won't be enough time to make up the distance.
In my experience, what would happen is that in order to lend excitement, they would have a few checkpoints before the end. They would have the car behind you, if you're in first place, would try to like boost up in front of you, and then right around now, like we're near the last checkpoint, everybody slows down to give you that sense of what I think they're going for is this thrill of like, oh, I came from behind at the last moment to win.
Which, like I said, for an arcade racer, you expect some of that.
You do expect some of it, but it's real obvious here.
Yeah, and I think the thing that bugs me is not so much that it does it; it's that the lack of subtlety in the way it does it, in the sense that you may be ahead a little bit. Let's say it's in the middle of a race, you might be ahead, and the other cars will jump you to the extent that they will start to knock each other out, knock you out. In just their like sheer aggressiveness, I think, as you said, Miller, to get ahead. By the way, there are also these AI cars I just raced against. I can challenge them just as I can real people. So if I come up against one of them, race challenge, and so I could
tell
challenge
George
that.
we gotta take that guy on.
Okay, spontaneous race. So there's these again. There's like drift ones.
Oh,
you
we're
can
racing
do.
right now.
Yeah, now we're going back in and racing. The sprint races to me generally are a little shorter. The drift races seem to be a little longer.
Okay.
But this is, just something you can do for rep. Anything you can do rep. Even if you're not in one of these races or any kind of an event race, just if you want to just go and just drift around the street, you're also getting rep. But this is a kind of way if you just want to, like I said, end that race, just go into something else.
So rep, you're talking about rep a lot here. Rep is XP, right? I mean, basically?
Yeah, the rep, see it right up there, it says I'm 43.
Yep. That's like your overall level?
That's my overall level, yeah. So here comes the cop.
Uh-oh.
So the rep builds your level up. The level lets you unlock and buy certain parts. I won that race. And also has to do, your overall, there's bank, so I get the money as well for those parts.
Yeah.
And so the cop that we passed by, those guys can come in and they can engage racers while we're in an event. Of course, they can also engage you when you're just speeding around the streets. And so, like you were asking before, like, what kind of Need for Speed game is this? Some Need for Speed games are very, cop focused, like the Most Wanteds and stuff. It has cops, but they're not those cops. They're not that aggressive. They're not really anything really to worry about. Like, I do have a pretty good car here, but even before I was at the halfway point of the game, I just stopped worrying about cops because I would just outrun them. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, they just didn't matter. And so even when you're driving around here, it's not like they just don't lend a lot to the world like you think. I mean, I know some people with rivals thought the cops were too powerful, and I get that. But these guys, if anything, then err on the reverse, where they should be more powerful.
So what are the things you'd say you like the most here? I mean, what makes, like, if somebody's thinking about like Need for Speed, should I give this a shot this year? Are there things that recommend it in your mind? Top level features? There's
a lot to do. Certainly, you look at all these events, and as we said, it looks really nice. I think it feels nice when you're doing sprint versus drift. I mean, you will sometimes have to, like I said, sort of go to the garage and maybe tweak your car. But honestly, it's not that big of a deal, to do that. And then when you come in and you're going in your drift race, I mean, it feels nice. And I wasn't using the handbrake as much. I was mainly just kind of just feathering the brakes and getting a feel for it. And it actually took me a little ways to get a feel for it, but it was fine once I did.
Yeah.
And so, it feels fast. It looks fast. There's some occasional graphic pop up. But, it's just fun to race. And I would say that, to me, is one of the big positives. If we go in the reverse, I mean, as we've said, I kind of wish the cops were a little bit more aggressive.
You are resisting arrest.
I am. I'm racking up a fine here.
I think you should just pull over and pay the fine. I mean, that's pretty street, right?
That's what they want. Yeah. So that's good stuff. Are there things, I'm reading between the lines that there's some stuff in this game that isn't blowing you away as well? Yeah, like the world looks good and stuff, but as we were shown with the collectibles, like I don't think there's enough kind of to do, so to speak. So let's say me and you were just going around and we're like, man, let's just see what trouble we can get into. Well, if the cops aren't a huge bother, and there's not a great amount of, let's say, like collectibles, kind of what you're left with is, I wish there was sort of more ways to make your own fun. Like we've seen in, let's say, like Burnout Paradise or the some other Criterion Need for Speed games, where you can go and like, I'm just gonna go off this crazy jump through this billboard, and it's gonna score me for my distance, and then you can do it, and we can see like who got the better distance. Those kind of like in world, just like let's make our own fun things, aspects I think are missing.
Okay.
And so what that I think does for the world is like sometimes you just don't feel like you're just like, oh, I can do these events, I can do the story events, but like you're not emboldened to go and just see what happens.
Right.
And
so it's like it has the open world, but doesn't have the experimentation connected to that open world? Is
I
that
mean,
your
those games we were talking about, those are not like, those are old games, you know what I mean? Like open world and what we expect from open world has come a ways from that. So to think that we've, quote, rebooted this franchise, and yet you're still looking, some of the best games that exemplify the franchise are still in the past, that's not a reboot, you know what I mean?
Right.
To me, that's not setting up the franchise to be like, this is definitively what it is. It's just kind of like, oh, here's another game. And by the way, if you've noticed, up in the upper left-hand corner, all those phone calls we keep getting.
Yeah, man. Does that get on your nerves eventually?
Yeah, it absolutely does. And it does not stop. Those are for story missions. And sometimes it's also just inconsequential chatter. So they're calling you during the race just to like say nothing, which is awesome. But
like they're calling you literally as you're doing a different event?
Yeah, or they'll be like, you've already accepted, let's say, their event, but they'll still call you and be like, hey, man, you should do this event. I'm like, I'm doing this event with you, man. I'm racing against you. You're like 2 cars behind me, man. But the sad thing is that they call you and they'll say like, here's a window, so it's optional. You don't have to hit L1 to trigger the audio for the call.
Yeah, but you're constantly getting that like vibrating, chirping phone in your ear.
And then it says like, oh, Spike, he'll call back, and you're like, don't call me back, man. I wish you wouldn't call me back. And if you miss those, you can actually go into a menu and see them all. So that was actually more frustrating, because you're like, I know this is all being archived. Like I can go in the menu and see exactly what the event is and even what the dialogue is, but you still keep calling me. So
there's that.
There's that.
All right. Well, fair enough. I mean, I think I'm getting a pretty good picture of this guy. It seems like, it could be a fun game from a perspective of seeing a cool looking city, racing pretty fast, but that it's not necessarily dramatically reinventing the wheel, so to speak, of racing games. And in some ways maybe lacks some of the cool features that have previously helped to define some of the Need for Speed games, right? Like you talked about the aggressive cops in one, or the sort of hot pursuit kind of vibe that you can get in some of the previous entries, and that's maybe just there's nothing that is a hook here that I'm seeing.
Yeah, nothing that's like, this is the game and this is why you should go get this game above those other ones. I mean, it's not that it does anything horribly wrong or anything, but it's just, like I said, it's just kind of average for the franchise, to be honest.
Fair enough. Well, thanks for showing it off for us, Kato.
Thank you.
And thank you all, everybody out there, for watching another episode of Test Chamber. We will see you later.